Hi, welcome to this iTeach Plus workshop put on by UAF eLearning and Distance Education. My name is Sean Holland. I'm an instructional designer here, and today's topic is called Building Community, and I will be discussing some ways, some ideas about how you can improve a sense of community and a sense of shared purpose in an online class. So I have a few slides that I will briefly go through, and then I'll move on to any questions from the viewing audience. So give me just 1 second to pull those up. All right, so my name is Sean Holland. You can contact me at the addresses on the screen there. Briefly today, we will discuss what an online community is. What does that mean? I'll talk about some methods, or some really not even methods, just ways, some simple tweaks and tricks you can use to help facilitate community in a class. I'll also talk about the tools that you can use to do that, what kinds of social networking services or tools inside of content management systems that can get you there. And I'll also talk about some examples of communities generally, as well as some courses here at UAF that I think are doing a good job of putting students into a rich learning community. So first, this is, maybe kind of a 5th grade exercise here, but I wanted to just talk about what community means. And so when we discuss it in a course, we really know what we're trying to achieve. Interdependence. Knowing that I can ask someone for help is really a big part of community. Belonging. Is this where I'm supposed to be? Do I have a sense of membership? It's also shared. It's something that I can contribute to, that I feel like I have some ownership in. There are also values in the community that sort of demonstrate who we are and what it means to be a part of that community. What are the goals that you share in achieving a certain learning objective? And there's also a sense of commitment, whether that's a time commitment over months, or some kind of a skills commitment. So first, I wanted to mention how in a community, you really need, before you can make students feel like they are part of a learning community, you need to show them that you are also part of that community. And that starts off by making yourself present as an instructor. So they need to trust you. They need to know that you're there to help them before they feel comfortable and safe letting other students help them, and helping other students, and being more proactive in their own learning. So that's not really the topic of today's discussion, but it is something that really it's without that you can't really move beyond. So here's quite a list of different ways you could implement community into a class, and these are not guaranteed. If you're doing one or the other is not going to instantly generate a sense of shared purpose, but simply making a space for that to happen. We have some advice here at eLearning about a recent teaching tip discussed the necessity of, and really the utility of, creating a sort of a general question and answer student discussion board, where students can go and ask questions that they know the teacher will see, but they also know other students will see, and hopefully students can help other students and really, first off, take some time off, some pressure off of the teacher. And that can happen in Blackboard, or really any wherever you're teaching, you can do that. Number two, you could also create a parallel space in a social networking service, sort of outside of the course. For example, you could create a Facebook group if you wanted to. You could create a Google Plus community. That's something we really recommend. Third, you can also really be careful about, if you already have discussions in your course, make sure that the discussion prompts are interesting. Make sure that they're well written. Make sure they're not something that students can just give a sort of a canned, boring answer to and consider themselves done. Make it something interesting enough to where students want to come back and see who's responded to their answer, to maybe make it something slightly provocative or really unique to that student, to different students' experiences. You should also make sure the expectations are clear, that students are really going to be part of a community and not just turning in, meeting the deadline every week and doing their work. This is obviously going to vary from, course to course. A physics course or a calculus course might have less of that, but there's no reason it can't. Number five, assigning group work and giving students work in groups is also something that can help. Audio and video, allowing students to, let's show you my face here again. First, tired of staring at a screen. Giving students the chance to express themselves in visual ways and letting you hear each other's voice can be really, really meaningful in breaking down the sense of anonymity that kind of comes, is kind of inherent in an online course. And some students, maybe they're taking an online course because they want some anonymity. And that's why those expectations, setting expectations at the beginning is important. So students know that they need to be in a weekly, real-time, synchronous session, and that's either mandatory or maybe it's optional. Them knowing that in advance is key, because if you are going to try for a strong community in your course, you want to have students who would want to be part of a community. So moving on to a discussion of tools. I don't want to get bogged down in which community building tool is the best, but the obvious ones are Blackboard. You can build a great community inside of Blackboard. I've been in them before. Blackboard discussion boards can get cumbersome. There are ways to manage that, but there's no reason a community can't form inside of a regular old Blackboard discussion group. I'll have a slide a little bit later on in my example section that shows what a healthy a range of Blackboard discussion groups in a course looks like. The other options, and I think I mentioned this earlier, are things like Facebook, Google Plus. Google Plus is something that is really highly recommended to have kind of a parallel channel or a back channel to a course, to where students, they have their assignments and maybe their graded discussions inside of Blackboard. I mean, first off, it's easier to grade that, but you could also have a Google Plus community where students can share more rich media content and have sort of snappier access to the course and to their classmates from their phone, for example. Another one is Slack. Slack is what would you call it? It's at its most basic, it's kind of a chat tool, but it also lets you structure discussions in really complex ways. There's a course here called Simen Society, taught by Dr. Peter Wesley, that makes use of Slack to create kind of a role-playing, a real world simulating role-playing environment. There's a link to that later on in this slideshow. Also, I have to mention VoiceThread. VoiceThread is a tool that allows discussions to take place in a course. You can see students' video, but it's also optional to have audio. Comments are inline temporarily, so you could make a comment, at the 53-second mark in someone's introduction and say, hey, I really like the way you said this, or isn't the view out your window fantastic? And that when used effectively can be a pretty advantageous and really bringing people into the same space. Google Hangouts, where I am right now, that's another option. Skype or Blackboard Collaborate, as well as Adobe Connect. And let me just bring that slide up on screen so we know what I've just been talking about. I have the Google Plus icon there because it's kind of it's a good starting point. It's included in our Google Apps for Education instance here at UA, so you could limit it to students' alaska.edu accounts. It has a pretty limited set of functions, but what it does well. We have a Google Plus community here in the e-learning office, and it's kind of a it certainly helps us maintain a sense of community. If there are brownies in the kitchen, someone will post it to that, and everyone in the office, from the design team to student services, can share in that sort of basic but necessary bit of information. So I wanted to go through a couple examples that I think do a good job of showing you what's maybe not the paragon of community, but are really doable examples. So the first is Simen Society, and I don't have access to the Slack channel, so I'll just be able to show you the site here. But this is a partially open course, and what the goal of the course was to help students gain sympathy and sort of experiential knowledge of the stakeholders involved in fisheries management. So if you are I'm not an expert on this, so I'm probably getting my terms wrong here, but if you're a commercial fisherman, you have different goals than someone who's working for Fish and Game versus subsistence fishermen. And how do you manage and share the resource, but also put yourself in the position emotionally and the knowledge of someone who's maybe you're actually kind of in conflict with sometimes. So that here is what they call, it's actually called a lab in the course. So you can see these are all group working sessions. So their lab is really kind of a group work simulation of the real world using that Slack tool that I mentioned. There's also a video here that my colleague Owen Guthrie made, and I will post a public link to this slide deck in the description of the of this broadcast when I'm done. So if you want access to these, they will be there posted inside of this slideshow at the conclusion of this. So Owen Guthrie teaches an online pedagogy course, an online course in online pedagogy. And he, in this video, discusses the community of inquiry by some researchers, Garrison, Anderson, and Archer. And it looks, I have a slide of this later on that we can just actually stick to. So the helpful thing about this framework, and this is what Owen discusses in his video, is it helps us think about what presence means in a course and how a fully immersive and a rich online course is going to have not just the cognitive, you're not just gaining domain knowledge, but there's also an engagement, a level of social engagement, as well as presence of a teacher. If you without those two things, without the social and the teaching presence, really it's almost self-study. And those things together combine to create a rich educational experience. And really, I would argue, and I think Owen would agree with this, that a rich educational experience is really the same thing as being part of a rich community of learners who are they have a shared purpose. So there's one example I want to show, and I believe this one of our viewers actually is, if he's viewing, this is from his course, which is running right now. So this is a screenshot of a Blackboard course. I took the screenshot this morning. So it's about, you know, a third, 2/3, halfway through a semester-long course. And you can see these are the different forums in the course. There's an introductory forum, the probably first week of class. Students were asked to introduce themselves. There's, this course has weekly synchronous sessions in Adobe Connect. And so those are posted, the recorded versions of those are posted there, and students can discuss them, those students who weren't able to attend in real time. And then the third, fourth, and fifth forums are the ones that I think are really important in allowing students to develop community sort of naturally, to rely on each other rather than simply relying on the teacher. And those are a kind of a technical question forum that seems to have, you know, there's 9 posts, so 7 of the 25 or so people in the class have had technical questions. There's a student forum where you can just kind of joke around. Some students really benefit from that. It looks like about 20% of students are actually engaging in that. But if you see, that's actually the third most active forum of the 5. So I think that this is a great example of this, mainly because, and I'm speaking for this instructor here, although I think I'm correct in saying this, that setting these up really did not take much effort at all. Setting them up and establishing the guidelines took a few minutes, some consideration, but from that point on, it's kind of it's self driving. The students are in control of it, and as long as there's some cursory instructor oversight, there's really not great necessity to monitor it or try to police it. So that really concludes what I have to go on about by myself here. If there are any comments, let me make sure I'm able to see those. YouTube recently changed their how live streams are done through Hangouts, and I want to be sure that I am able to catch any comments that may be sitting out there. So just give me 1 second. Okay, it looks like we have about 3 viewers, and I don't see anything in the chat. So if you have a question, go ahead and add it. Otherwise, I will move toward wrapping things up. Oh, thank you, Heidi. I'm looking at the YouTube page. But I don't want to watch it. Oh, it's telling me my stream is offline. That's not true. Chat. Oh, there's the chat. Yeah, I thought that's where it was because I looked at it before and I didn't see anything, but it's like the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, or something like that. Well, if there are no questions, I would just like to say thank you for those of you who did attend. I hope I didn't waste your time. And just the point here is that you don't have to make too much of an effort to bring an online course into a level of sort of shared sense. It's about the sense of community. If you have a community, you're going to have a sense of community. But for me, as a student personally, feeling like I was part of something with other students was something that was really important to me, and I really tried hard to achieve. And so I know there are students in courses who do care, and letting them, giving them the place to do that, and structuring your course. There's a lot more I could talk about how the structure of a course and the design of activities can lead students to more collaboration and group work and things like that. There's actually there's a link to that that was dead this morning in, one of our iTeach U pages. I'll put that in the description here on this YouTube video. But really, my point here is that this is not difficult. It's just something that you have to think about. And if you do, you can probably create, in some instances, a stronger community in an online course than you might have had in a face-to-face course. So that was a fast little workshop. Thanks for watching, and hope you join us for our future Open Labs and these future iTeach Plus events, which most of them will take place in this conference room here in 131 Bunnell. But until next time, thanks.